Well, moving on to that, it was Hulk Hogan and Sting in the main event of Starrcade 1997, December 28th. Sting's entrance with the laser show and a child's voice reading a poem about a dark warrior fighting an army out of the shadows. It was simultaneously the corniest thing ever and also the coolest thing ever.
It was very 1997, this light show.
Yeah, that's true. They do a stare down. Tony is sure to point out how big Sting's arms are, which is funny considering Eric Bischoff's later claim where it looked like Sting had not lifted a weight in months. So, they did a lot of nothing. Hogan would do like an arm
nothing.
Hogan
they
would
did
do an
mostly
arm
nothing.
Sting would hit a drop kick. Hogan would bail and bigger with the fans. And the whole thing is, Sting is just doing his mime act, so his face is blank the entire time. He's doing nothing. He's not interacting with the crowds. He's not showing any emotion. The whole thing is just the Hogan show, who's just celebrating when he's on top. He's selling when he's selling, and in between, he's bailing and messing around with the fans.
You know what this was like? This wasn't even like a main event on a pay-per-view, for sure. It was like a house show match. But it wasn't even like a house show main event match. It was like a third match on the card house show match with an old veteran against a guy who'd been in the business like 3 months. That's what this match was. It was like your match with Stoney Edwards, which I believe was your first match.
Yeah.
Until the supposed fast count, that is exactly what this was. Sting didn't even show up. He was just out there like a rag doll. There was none of the old Sting. There was no fire. There was no charisma. It may have, the fake Sting would have done a better job in this match.
That is probably true. The legacy of this match is that Sting got screwed, and it's true. But it's also true that Sting was taking the night off.
Oh, he took
the biggest match the company ever had.
Well, let's jump ahead here very quickly, because I want to talk about that. So Nick Patrick does his supposed fast count. They do an atomic drop, and then Hogan hits the big boot, and you think, this is a setup for the leg drop of doom. Hogan hits the leg drop of doom. You're thinking, now Sting's going to kick out of his move and fire up. But Nick Patrick drops down, and he counts 1, 2, 3. Just like that. Pins a guy. I don't know if they must not have, either Tony Schiavone didn't know the finish or he was baffled that they didn't do a fast count, because he counted along and he goes 1, 2, and he just stops. It's a 3 count.
Wait, what?
And they immediately cut outside, and there's Bret Hart refusing to let the timekeeper ring the bell. Now, apparently Bret Hart can see the future. Apparently, Bret Hart started walking in the ring 3 minutes ago, knowing that Hulk Hogan was going to hit the leg drop, Sting wasn't going to kick out, and the referee was going to give a fast count. Because he was prepared. It wasn't like he was at ringside for this match. He just magically appeared. And he claimed it was a fast count, which it wasn't, and then they restarted the match. Now, here's the key. When they restarted this match, we got the old Sting. He fired up. He was running wild. He was howling. The place was going crazy. He hits his moves. The NWO comes out. He beats up all of them. He puts a dude in the sharpshooter. Hulk Hogan submits. He wins. He celebrates. All the guys come out. I was like, where were you for the first 15 minutes of this match? Or 12 minutes, or 10 minutes, or whatever the first part was. Like, he was Sting once they restarted the match. Why didn't he do that for the first half of the match? Did he realize what was going on and how shit it was going to be, and so he didn't even try? And then he went crazy when he was actually going to win? What the hell happened here?
I don't have any answers. Those were all good questions. It was very strange. And the funny thing is, the last 90 seconds, it was like everyone just pretended that count had been fast.
Yeah, because it was supposed to be.
Including the fans, though. The fans were very happy to see Sting fire up. They were happy to see him beat up Hulk Hogan for 90 seconds. They were happy to see him fight off the 2 NWO members who hit the ring. They were happy to see him win. So he gets the win. Bret Hart calls for the bell. And then we get a great celebration. The first guy in the ring is his best friend, Lex Luger. Big hug there. Next guy in the ring is the other WCW hero and the big guy, the Giant, who could hold him up high amidst the crowd. They grabbed every warm body they could find and said, go celebrate with Sting, so this looks cool. Luther Reigns was out there.
That's right.
Yep. And everyone just pretended like we had not just seen Sting pinned clean as a sheet just a few minutes ago.
It was so weird because when I watched his comeback after Brett restarted the match, I thought, you know what? If you fuckers would have just come out here and only done that, like Michael Buffer introduces the men, instead of just walking down the aisle, Sting comes out, a house of fire, he hits the ring, he runs wild on Hogan, he's beating the hell out of him, pillar to post, NWO runs in, Sting beats them all up, grabs the guy, puts him in the sharpshooter, Hulk Hogan submits, Sting's the new champion. Like they did with Goldberg and Brock Lesnar at Survivor Series. If they would have done that, like the company was still going to die, they'd have fucked everything else up. But that would have been such a great ending to the whole NWO story and the Sting story and everything else. And the next day, the NWO is gone or they're downplayed, and now you move on with your lives and you start a new storyline and you start a new build to the next Starrcade or whatever, or you build to Sting and Goldberg, whatever you're going to do. It would have been so great. But they had to do what they did. I mean, I don't know. Apparently, even if they had done a fast count, Hogan was supposed to, like, get a lot of offense in because he was losing. It's like, fuck off, dude! This is Starrcade. You've been building this up for a year. You don't need shit in this match. Just go out there and put the guy over. The fuck do you need to beat the guy up for? That's stupid. This whole thing was, it's more painful now than it was at the time.
It's bewildering. I watched this knowing
everybody involved should have been fired the next day.
I watched this knowing everything was going to happen almost minute for minute, and I was still blown away when it actually happened.
Like, how was Nick Patrick not fired the next day? How?
I don't know.
Fucked up the biggest finish in the history of the company. How do you not fire the guy? How do you not fire Bischoff? Because he's overseeing this debacle. How the fuck did they not go through that with a flaming sword and just fire fuckers left and right after this?
Well, that was Starrcade. And it led to a Nitro the next night, number 120. Also December 29th.
Where they also spent the whole show pretending that the count was fast. As they're plugging the Tuesday replay of the pay-per-view where you can buy it and see that it wasn't a fast count. And then Hogan comes out later and tells the truth.
They actually said you can buy the pay-per-view and judge for yourself.
Yeah.
Are you familiar with the term gaslighting?
No.
It is, make a long story short, it is telling someone the same lie over and over again to the point where they start to believe it.
So you mean wrestling?
Well, sort of, but specifically on the show, WCW is gaslighting their fans. As Tony said over and over again, it was a fast count, it was a fast count, it was a fast count.
That's the story of Hogan's career. Gaslighting. That should have been his finish.
I guess so. So, yeah, it was quite strange. And every time they said that, I said, "No, I just watched it. You're lying to me. It was a clean count." So the show opens. They welcome Larry Zbyszko for saving the company with the win over Eric Bischoff. Tony Schiavone then offered the following words, and this is a quote.
This was the best part of the show.
For you 18 to 25 young men who still live with your mom, who don't have a job, who are NWO fans, let me suggest the Cartoon Network. I'm sure Space Ghost Coast to Coast is on right now. What an oddly specific and bitter rant.
It wasn't just that. I love the part when he goes, as we all know, NWO is for losers, and he holds the L up to his head. Tony Schiavone.
Yeah.
It's fucking great.
Glacier versus Bill Goldberg. Glacier still doing his full entrance with the snow and the lasers and the kata. All this time making him like a star, and Goldberg comes out to kill him and wins with the spear and jackhammer in a minute.
Oh, yeah. Nearly killed him with his spear.
And the place goes ape shit for Goldberg. That was actually awesome. Gene brings out Bret Hart for a promo. Brett pledges allegiance to WCW. Says the NWO is corrupt scum, just like the scum he left behind. He starts putting over all the guys he wants to wrestle in WCW. Luger, Giant, Benoit, Sting, all the guys in the NWO. And says the big target he wants most of all is Hulk Hogan. Says Hogan's been running for him for a long time, and now there's nowhere to run or hide. It's time to step in the ring with me.
This was a good promo, but Bret Hart's promos as a heel are 1,000 times better. Like 1,000 times better. Of course, the story is when Hulk Hogan was champion in WWF, he refused to drop it to Bret Hart because Bret was too small. Is that a dog?
That was me coughing.
Oh. So yeah, now he's coming back for revenge on the Hulkster now that Yokozuna's out of the picture.
Yes. Raven from the stands cuts a promo. He said Saturn had beaten Chris Benoit the night before. Just as
so they did my idea.
Yes. Raven did not wrestle Benoit at the pay-per-view.
I didn't even know they were going to do that. I totally forgot. But that was what made sense, and they actually did it. It's kind of amazing the things they do that make sense and the things they do that don't make sense.
Well, it is WCW. The things they do that don't make sense are amazing. So basically he says that if he and his men have been beating Benoit for weeks, and if Benoit's going to keep coming out to fight, we're going to keep beating him up. So you had Hammer versus Chris Benoit.
Hammer.
Benoit comes out, dives over the rail onto Raven and his crew. They kick his ass because there's like 8 of them and feed him to Hammer. Hammer goes for his delayed superplex, nearly loses Benoit and drops him to the floor. Unfortunately, he hit it. He missed a wacky corner charge, and Benoit hooks the crossface, and the Flock attacks for the DQ. At this point, Mongo runs out to make the save. Mongo brawling with Riggs and then Hammer. No good.
You don't say.
No good at all.
You know, I didn't watch it, but they actually did the Goldberg-Mongo match at Survivor Series, and Dave gave it -1 star. Called it atrocious.
I'm sure it was.
I don't know. I'd like to see it.
So, the X-Horsemen cleared the ring. Raven was shown watching from the stands. Ric Flair came out for a promo. He congratulated all of the WCW guys for their wins at the pay-per-view and calls out Bret Hart. Says, it's a good thing you're finally here in the big leagues, but I couldn't help but note, you gave a long, long list of guys you'd like to face earlier, and my name did not come up. He pulls out a copy of the Baltimore Sun, and then says, at my age, you need these, and he puts on spectacles. And then he begins to scour the page that he has brought out because he didn't think to highlight it first. He looks so much like Grandpa Flair here. Finally, he says, here's a quote from Bret Hart's main man, Dave Meltzer. Said Flair was the greatest in the history of the sport without question. This made him happy, and he celebrated.
This was bizarre. It was so wacky. This would only happen in 1997 in WCW.
Pretty much. Ultimo Dragon versus Eddie Guerrero. They had like 90 seconds. They were both dressed exactly the same, so they looked like tag team partners. That annoyed me. And then Dragon won. He reversed whatever Eddie was going for with a Dragon Sleeper, tapped him out to win the Cruiserweight title. Then as soon as the bell rang, Eddie beat him up and threw him out of the ring. What the hell was this?
Well, they decided we got to change every single solitary title. So they changed one here. In a minute and a half.
In a minute and a half.
Just about the best 90 seconds you've ever seen in wrestling, I might add.
It was very good wrestling while they were out there, but then they had the loser beat up the winner just to make sure the title change didn't matter anyway.
Well, you got to make sure you set up that rematch.
I suppose. Hulk Hogan and Eric Bischoff came out for a promo. They showed J.J. Dillon announcing a Starcade that Nick Patrick would be the ref. This showed it was WCW's call, not theirs. And they said Nick Patrick had called for the bell and declared Hogan the winner and champion. This was all true. Said Bret Hart had interfered after the match was done and lied to the world. This was all true. They set up a sneak attack by Sting, which is not true. But then Bret raised to Sting's hand, and that was that. Hogan ran his mouth for a while, claimed to still be the champion. Bobby Heenan comes back to rejoin the announce desk. Shivani and Snea are like, no, we saw you sucking up to the NWO last week. Heenan says, I had gone running into the burning house, sacrificing myself for WCW in the tradition of pro wrestling. And he just sits back down and goes to work no matter what they say.
Yeah. Well, everything they said he took as an okay that he's back. Like he would say, I want my job back. And Tony would say, tonight? And Heenan would respond to, tonight? By saying, thank you, and sit down.
Yes.
Tony's laughing by the end of this. Heenan is so good.
It was great.
And the funny thing was, he said that he did what he had to do for the WCW fans last week. And I thought, you know what? He's absolutely right, because that fucking commentary was so horrible until he showed up. So he did save the day, and he should be welcomed back with open arms.
That is true. We had Mortis versus DDP. I like how Page's gimmick is he wrestles in taped ribs to let you know his ribs are hurt. That he never actually sells his ribs as he's flopping around the ring or hitting the ropes.
Because they're taped.
Yeah, I guess so. Did a lot of stuff, way more than they needed to, and then Page reversed the Samoan drop into a diamond cutter for the win.
I got nothing to add.
All right. Oakland interviewed J.J. Dillon. J.J. said there had been a championship match, and a decision had been rendered. The decision was final, and that is that. I talked to Sting. Sting says he's willing to defend his title tonight. If Hogan or anyone else from the NWO wants to come face him, Sting will fight. Disco Inferno versus Booker T.
Can you imagine this was the post-Starcade edition of this show? Nothing's happening.
Well, this is something.
I mean, it's a title change, but, like, it's just a bunch of matches on this show.
Yeah, well, it's true. The fallout of Starrcade was pretty much Sting is champion now, but everything else is still the same.
Yeah.
Yeah. So, Disco, in case you had forgotten, like I had, was the TV champion at this point. This match is a fun little brawl, actually. I enjoyed this.
My favorite part, I see these every week now. Disco has Booker T in a chin lock or something, and he's talking to the guy. And he's talking, 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 and he's talking. And I'm like, what the fuck is the spot? Do it already. And the big spot is, hit the ropes, watch the knee. And then he put it back in a chin lock again.
Yes.
It's like, how many times were you spelling it?
So Booker makes his comeback, and he hits the Harlem Hangover, and he wins.
That's right, a move Bobby Heenan said he'd never seen Booker T do before.
It was his first singles championship in WCW. He looks in the camera, wishes his son a happy birthday, turns around, there's his brother, Stevie Ray. They're celebrating. Between this and Sting and the end of Starrcade, WCW really knew how to have guys celebrate when they won a championship.
Hey, yeah.
Dillon comes out, says nobody in the NWO has responded yet, but then out comes Bischoff, who accepts the challenge on Hogan's behalf and warns Dillon not to screw it up. Chris Jericho versus Curt Hennig.
Man, they weren't a tag team, but they paired Hennig and Rude up here. It was awesome.
Rick Rude was in Hennig's corner. His mustache was not.
Oh, my God. You know, there are very, very few men that can pull off a mustache. I'm talking only a mustache. Not the goatee, not the beard. Just a mustache. And Rick Rude, he was not only so much of a man that he could pull off just a mustache, but when he got rid of the mustache, it was a negative.
That's the amazing part.
Yeah. He looked
very human
he looked better with a mustache. Yeah. Can you imagine? I've never seen a man like that before. Maybe Don Fry.
Who is also manly, by the way.
It's true.
I suspect Don Fry and Rick Rude would have gotten along swell.
Oh, man. What a team they'd have been.
So they're doing this match, and something gets fucked up early, and Hennig bails. They get back, and they're doing the match more. Hennig was extra pissed after the first fuck up. He takes Jericho to the corner and just beats him up for a while. Then he gave Jericho Jericho his chance back. But then Jericho makes his comeback, and he tries the quebrada, the moonsault off the ropes. He comes up way, 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 way short, and probably would have fallen on his head and died. But Hennig got his knees up to break his fall. And Hennig's like, hell with this. And he immediately hits the fisherman suplex for the win. The ref counts 3. And then Hennig, as the ref is raising his hand, keep in mind, he pinned him with a suplex. It was like he was on top of him. It's not like he had been on top of him anyway. The ref raises Hennig's hand, and Hennig sits on Jericho's face just to annoy him.
Yeah.
Blatantly teabagging him on national TV. Jericho shoves him away, goes to ringside, throws a tantrum saying he's sick of this. Like, I'm sure it's probably the start of his heel turn, because that's coming up here soon. But it sure came off like he was sick of having Kurt Hennig's ass on his head.
It was weird. I could not figure out for the life of me what the hell was going on with that lion salt. I thought that he meant to not rotate and land on the guy's knees, which would be really, really stupid and potentially deadly. So, I don't know who did what or why anybody was where, but yeah, it was quite the match.
Scott Hall came out for a promo, he did his survey, and he left.
And by the way, I should add, after Hennig sat on his face, got out of the ring, Hennig's all pissed off, and Rick Rude's got the biggest smile on his face. And he goes over and he congratulates Hennig, and then Hennig gets a big smile on his face. I thought, look at these two assholes. They're awesome.
We had this week's embarrassing Nitro Party clips.
I got to say one thing about Hall, too. So as noted earlier in the show, Hall comes out and he does a babyface promo. He puts over the town. They all cheer. He gets his cheap pop. And then he says who's here for the WCW, who's here for the NWO, blah, blah, blah. And then he leaves. And I'm like, what in the fuck is going on? This guy is supposed to be one of your top heels, and every week he comes out and does a babyface promo. What's happening here? And I thought, for years, we have seen mainstream media writers talk about how stupid wrestling is. And our obvious immediate reaction is, hey, fuck you, we love wrestling. But the more I think about it, wrestling's really stupid sometimes.
It really is.
I'm not saying I don't love it, but like, especially as I go back and watch this stuff in the 90s, and you see what the media was writing about wrestling in the 90s, and we all got so defensive about it. Now here I am looking back, pretending I'm a casual fan, just watching the shows every week, and I'm like, look at all this stupid shit, like week after week. Gold Dust, all this bullshit on Nitro, it's like stupid shit every single week. They were right.
You had Buff Bagwell versus Lex Luger. Buff is a fun Dr. Seuss promo about all the places Lex can't beat him. And then Lex comes out and they're doing the match. And they give Norton interferes right away to give Buff the advantage. And he keeps the advantage until he misses the blockbuster, and Lex just runs wild, takes out Norton, puts Bagwell on the rack, and gets a submission win.
Yeah.
So they had this whole story about how Bagwell had Lex's number, and Lex couldn't get the win. And then the night after Starrcade, they just wrap it up on Raw or on Nitro.
They didn't get the usual reaction for Luger that he got in a lot of places. I don't know what it was. Maybe they're just getting over him now, because it's just, ever since he lost that title to Hogan, he's just doing stuff. He did the goddamn laziest power slam I've ever seen in my life in this match. Did you see that?
I can't say I noticed.
Of course you didn't, because he didn't go to the ground with it. The guy came off the ropes, and he spun him around in a power slam and just stayed on his feet.
So, yeah, Lex wins, and he cuts a promo to the camera saying Macho Man is next on his list.
Maybe Lex watched Sting the night before and thought, yeah, I'm doing too much.
Well, Sting and Hogan came out for their match, and somebody did something to light a fire under these guys. Because it was a million times better than the match the night before.
Yeah, it was like after the restart.
And I'm watching this, and Sting's a house of fire, and Hogan's just a giant dick heel getting his ass kicked, but then also cheating to fight back, and it's this fun brawl back and forth. And Hogan misses the big leg this time, and Sting takes over. He's going for his finish. And then out of nowhere, the ref gets bumped, and the show ends.
Yeah.
This pissed me off more than Starrcade.
Think about all of those times that they've come on TV. Last week, Eric, when he's doing the thing for Hogan, goes, let's just do a third hour. How many times have they said, we will stay on the air no matter what? We're going to go until this match wraps up. They've had 3-hour show after 3-hour show after 3-hour show. And I remember when I turned this on, I'm like, hey, this is only a 2-hour show. What the hell? And I watch it. There's the main event. And literally, Sting hits a stinger splash. And Tony Schiavone goes, we're out of time! I was like, what? You're out of time? What are you talking about? And then they were off the air. So I guess what happened was Thunder's debuting. And so this was their cliffhanger for Thunder, where they were going to show you the rest of the match. Where in fact, after the referee got bumped, Nick Patrick ran in and did a legit fast count this time. He didn't fuck it up this time. And then Sting kicked out of that one, and then they did some other stuff, and the referee woke up, and Sting ended up winning and retaining the title. But I guess they wanted to record a fast count so that they could use it forever when recapping Starrcade. Do you remember them doing this?
I do not recall that ever
Of course
happening.
not, because it's WCW. They were bombarded with angry calls from Vinny's the next day.
Well, that was the show. There you go.
That's your follow-up to Starrcade, everybody. That was your follow-up to the biggest WCW pay-per-view of all time. The show went off the air in the middle of a rematch to build to Thunder.
Which they did not mention one time on Nitro, by the way. Didn't even hint at it.
No, I heard nothing about Thunder. Maybe there were commercials I didn't see that they edited off the network version, but I didn't see one thing about Thunder here on this show. But yeah, it's debuting, and sadly, it's not on the WWE network.
Oh, what a shame.
Yeah. Well, with that, everybody, we're out of here. We're going to be back on Thursday with a brand new show. I believe I will still be here. I'm not sure. We may bump Granny to Sunday. We'll figure out what we're going to do, but one or the other we'll do NXT, Lucha Underground, I believe, and Raw from Monday, which I haven't even seen yet. So, Vinny, I hope it's good. And that's it, everybody. We'll talk to you again after a while.
Good night.